Okay, cool. All right, guys, we're live. So welcome to this episode of Amp Talk Live. We've been in existence for a little bit more than a year, having monthly live conversations. I know there were a couple times over the month or over the summer where we didn't have Amp Talk Live, but we're back, and I'm super excited about this episode of Amp Talk Live. So up until now, every live conversation for Amp Talk has been all about the brand. Today, it has nothing to do with the branded experience, and it has everything to do with you performers and addressing those thoughts of like, what do I do next? How can I become and evolve more of a performer than I already am, no matter where you're at in your fitness career? Maybe you just got certified like our friend Chris, who's going to be talking in just a second, or maybe you've been in the fitness industry for a very long time where you've got a lot of layers to your fitness career. No matter where you're at, we're going to be talking about how to level up and how to move up in your fitness career. So today I want to kick it off with my friend Chris Kim, who's from our Fort Washington area. Chris, how's it going today?
Yo, what's up, everybody? Going well. Thank you.
Well, welcome. So this is your first time as a co-host with any of our layers with our live conversations with Cycle and Group Fitness. So talk to us a little bit about your story. So I mentioned on the grid that you are a member turned performer. So talk us through that. How did you get into your performer role?
Absolutely. So my wife and I and my whole family joined Lifetime Fort Washington when it first opened a little over a year ago. And when we joined, we were both relatively overweight. I actually weighed 265 pounds. I won't give away my wife's weight, though, because she'll kill me if I do that. So I'll do her the grace of that. But we were overweight, still happy as a family, but needed to kind of do something to fix our lives and to get things in shape. Cardiovascular activity-wise, it was always a challenge for me to find something that I enjoyed, to find something that I would had a good time doing and didn't have any pain with doing either. And ultimately, Cycle fit the most naturally for me. I felt like Cycle was just a smooth transition and a smooth fit for both my wife and I. And over the course of time, over the course of our period at Lifetime for Washington, we ended up just going to Cycle class starting off maybe once or twice a week. And then we went 2 to 3 times a week. And then we went 4 to 5 times a week. And then we were those people that were front row folks in every single class, in every single instructor, whether it was Fabian, Jess Kelly, JR visiting, and anybody who we had an opportunity to learn from and to enjoy their experience, we went. And then over the course of about 10 months, aside from the weight loss, I lost 60 to 65 pounds just over that short period of time with Cycle as my primary source of cardiovascular activity. And then I started realizing that instructors would approach me after class and say things like, you know, it's great when I get to have you in my front row, or it's been really encouraging to see you and your wife with such enthusiasm. And eventually that became, hey, guess what? Empower is going to be in town. What do you think about getting certified? I was like, sure, why not? It sounds like fun. You know, I felt like I've always had an attachment to music. Did that, got certified. And then Jess Kelly approaches me and says, hey, why don't you come into the studio and practice your audition for me? It's just to run through it. I said, sure, why not? Jess, I love Jess. Did it with Jess. And then out of nowhere, in comes our general manager, Mike Pearson, and says, hey, why are you auditioning other places? You should work here. I said, there's no place I'd rather be. And that's how things went. And lo and behold, now I've been a cycle instructor for primarily Edge Cycle since about May. But I've been doing Amp Cycle for the last month and a half, and it's been great.
That's so cool. I'll never forget when you were in my class back in, I think it was Fort Washington. It was either Fort Washington or King of Prussia, but it was on the same trip. And I think you're in the front row, and I'm like, God, that guy is just crushing it right now. And I had the same thought. There was something about the light that comes out of you, and just like you looked yourself right in the mirror and you owned every single movement. And it was just such an incredible experience as me as the performer, really just see you, because like all of you that are performers on here, we get that energy, especially from that front row, because they're so close to us, and you're totally that person for me. So in addition to a lot of other people there, I mean, there's a lot of incredible members and performers that were there. But
yeah.
So what is it like now being on this side of fitness, where now you are putting your classes together? You're the one who is making direct impact on members' lives?
Yeah. So from that perspective, it's such an interesting perspective, because what it allows me to do is that it really allows me to identify with each and every member that walks into that room. I can say from a very recent experience that I was you. This was your first time cycling. Guess what? My real first time experiencing cycle was about a year and a half ago. I am you, and I can tell them that story from so many different perspectives. And I think that's applicable regardless of whether or not you've been in the industry for 1 year or if you've been in the industry for 30. You can always look back on that moment where you said, hey, there was that thing, that influence that made me want to do this. And I want to then in turn share that with the people around me. So that was what, as a cycle performer, I try to bring with me in every single class. And what I like to say to my classes, I often teach a Thursday morning, 6 a.m. edge. And Thursday, as many of you know, is notoriously a low swipe time. And on top of that, you're looking at 6 a.m., 5:30 a.m. And I tell people, whether it's 2 people in my front row and that's it in my class, or whether it's 60 on my class on Monday nights at 6 p.m., I'm going to give you guys all that I have. But I want you guys to promise me the same, not for my sake, but for yours. And that's what I try to bring to the table every time, because as a member, that's what I brought, and I saw that instructors appreciated that. So as an instructor, I in turn want to do the same for the members.
You know, we all have a story on why we are teaching fitness. We've all got, you know, we all have a road that got us to where we're at now. I mean, my mom was a fitness instructor when I was little, and I'm at the Legion in River Falls, small town, Wisconsin, and I'd sit in the back in color, and I had no idea what these ladies with big poofy 90s hair were doing with these matching leotards. But there's something so special about, you know, where we come from and how we're talking to the members in our classes, you know, about really making change. So now when members are coming up to you, after you've been teaching classes, telling them about their successes in your classes, because of you knowing about the road to the weight loss, the image issues that you and I talked about yesterday. What is it like now when you're talking to those members, when they're talking about the successes, the challenges that they've had? Like, how do I overcome this? Like, help me sort of moment.
Yeah. So exactly what JR alluded to. I struggled with things of self-image and self-esteem issues throughout. As relatively larger guy, and as a male in an industry, in a work industry, I always tried to carry myself in a confident way. But deep down, when it came to closing those doors or being at home or in the quietness of the night, there were so many insecurities that I had. There were so many times where I would have these struggles with who I am and that lacking the confidence in myself as an individual. And, you know, although part of that, part of the regaining of that confidence and part of the regaining of that identity does have to do with a little bit of the image and being able to lose the weight, I think primarily it came from the confidence that I had in the interactions that I had with a lot of these instructors. So again, beyond just the fact that I lost the weight, because everyone can take that physical aspect and identify with it, but some people will say, well, you know what, it's not that easy for me. But at the end of the day, apart from taking that part of it aside, taking the weight loss part of it away, I was still able to find a self-identity in the ability to be in the class with these performers. I'm able to find an identity through being able to perform as well as being a member. I still try to take as many classes as I can. I'm always trying to take and learn from other people. And in that sense, I think oftentimes I was able to provide this additional identity where people can come see me and say, hey, look, I want to provide you with a shoulder to cry on or a person to talk to. It doesn't have to get personal, but at the end of the day, if the words that I speak in my class can be influential to some small respect, I would like for people to then take that home with them. And if it means a social media post, or if it means in the quietness of their night, they're able to then remember that moment or that one word or that one motivational thing that you brought to them, I think that at the end of the day helps everybody recover this identity and this image.
So where do you see your career going in fitness? You've had a short career so far. You're just getting started. Where do you see yourself going from here? I mean, I'm not going to say where do you see yourself in 5 years sort of situation, but where do you want to go? I mean, what's next for you?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. My boy Fabian, who's going to talk after me, him and I have had these conversations already before over a couple of drinks. And, you know, at the end of the day, I think I'm happy. As you can see, I'm sitting in an office and I work in an environment that I enjoy. But at the end of the day, when it comes to fitness, my career in fitness, if I can make an influence or make an impact on a single person's life, that's my goal. And as cheesy as it sounds and as open-ended as that may seem, that really is my goal. I told Jess Kelly when she hired me, I'm happy to do this for minimal salary because that's not what I'm really in it for. I would be in the studio anyway, regardless of who the instructor was. So I'm happy to just be able to be an influence. So from a perspective of where do I see myself in the fitness industry, I see myself as being an influencer, right? I see myself in 5 years, if I can have some sort of additional influence on another performer's life or another member's life, or even somebody else on social media who happened to have seen my post, then that's where I want to be. I want to be able to make that influence and make that impact in people's lives down the road. And however I come by that, I'm happy with it. Whether it means teaching 2 classes a week on 6 a.m.s on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's fine. I just want to have that impact and have that availability.
So cool. Well, welcome to the Lifetime family. On this side of the family anyway, we've been so thankful to have you as a member and of course now as a performer. And thank you for sharing your story with us today. So I know that a few hands went up while Chris was talking. We'll take questions at the end of the conversation. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that before. So make sure to write down any questions that you have from any of our co-hosts, and we'll address all of those at the end, okay? So we have a few more co-hosts with us today. Chris, I'm gonna move on from you, but we'll be catching back up with you near the end of our conversation. We also have Fabian from New York. We also have Jamaal from, Fabian from New York, Jamaal from New York as well. And then we have Donna Thomas from Illinois. But next we're going to move over to Fabian. So Fabian, I think you're unmuted there.
Okay.
All right, there you go. Yeah, I can hear you okay.
Awesome.
So, so I assume you're in New York City right now, yeah?
I'm in Brooklyn right now.
How is it in Brooklyn today?
Brooklyn is, it's currently raining. We had some ice storm going on early in the morning, but we're looking a little better right now.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, so Fabian, like I mentioned in the post, but of course I'll reiterate that Fabian is located at our Sky Club in Manhattan. And in Manhattan, I Googled it last night, or Siri helped me out, and I asked how many people live in Manhattan, and it's like 8.5 million. And I already knew that it was a huge number, but what's so incredible is the way that you've built community in a city where there are so many people, there are so many fitness clubs, like on every corner, on every block, and you've done an incredible job of packing your classes and getting your name out there. So how do you do it? How do you build community in such a popular, dense area?
JR, honestly, I don't know how I did it. No, I'm just kidding. Basically, you know, I believe solely in energy. You could be the best instructor out there. You know, you could be the most talented instructor, but if your energy is, you know, subpar, it's really, especially in New York City, there's so many instructors. So you have to be different. You have to have a different type of positive attitude. You know, I make that place my family. That's like my home. So those people want to hang out. They want to, you know, they want to get to know me. And I believe that every instructor should, you know, think that way. And in order to build your business and help a gym grow, you got to treat them like they're your family, you know, and that's exactly what I do, you know, just make them feel comfortable. And, you know, they always come up to me with questions and I always help them and I take time out. You know, you can't just come in as an instructor, run in and run out. So especially in New York City, you know, everyone's so busy. So I just try to keep them all engaged by, you know, playing the music they want, giving them the workouts they want. You know, they come in, I want to work, you know, upper body today. I make sure, you know, we stress that upper body, or I want to do some, you know, sprints or, you know, whatever it is on the bike. I make sure I, you know, compliment them to what they want.
That's great. So yesterday when you and I were having a conversation about what makes your connection with members unique is you led with that. I mean, you consider yourself to be a motivator, and you totally are. I think any of us listening today would consider ourselves to be motivators, uplifters. I mean, people that uplift others in our community. what makes you different? You said that you treat them like family. I would assume that a lot of us are treating our members like family in some ways, but how do you do it? Give us some tips on ways that you can really connect and stay connected with the members that go to your classes.
So, being in New York City, we're extra busy. I'm not saying that you guys in Minnesota are not busy, but we're a little, we probably have double the capacity in all around New York City that you guys have. And what I find is, because I work out in New Jersey as well, in New York City, people just want to come in and run out. So I make sure that, no, you're going to stay a little longer. You're going to talk. You're going to tell me, basically what's going on. Because a lot of people do struggle. They struggle with losing weight, gaining muscle. And, I make sure that they 90% of them will see results and basically try to understand where I'm coming from and make them feel comfortable in my class.
So yesterday you were giving me an example of that wow moment for you when a member came into your class. You said you'd given him a t-shirt and he did something with the shirt that where he was like, yes.
Right.
So talk us through that.
Yeah. So there was a gentleman that was pretty overweight and he was scared to take my class, my F-bomb class. And basically, I told him, don't worry about it. And I have a good way of being funny with these people that do come to my class, and I make them feel comfortable. And basically, so he's been coming to my class for about 2 months and really looking a lot better. And he came in with my t-shirt and he ripped off the sleeves. He walked in like he was like Hulk Hogan and like the man. And it made me it made me feel so good. It was awesome. I love those kind of moments.
That's so cool. You also mentioned that as a kid, you weren't in shape and you had some inspiration from your family on turning that around. Can you talk us through that and maybe how it connects to that feeling you get when that member, for example, had his sleeves cut off, showing off a little bit, just being proud? Can you talk us through about your journey that got you here to begin with and how it ties it all together now when you're connecting with members?
Yeah, sure. So I started out working with a trainer when I was about 20 years old, and he really motivated me to get into the fitness industry. I was currently working with computers, and I was doing computer networking and getting a computer science degree, which was boring as hell. And I always loved sports. My grandfather was a professional soccer player in Poland, and basically as a 5-year-old, he would take me out there and play soccer with me. And I never lost that, but I always wasn't in the greatest shape. My family kind of fed us whatever was out there. There was no health back then, So we were just eating whatever we could afford. And I wasn't extremely overweight, but I wasn't in shape. And so this personal trainer motivated me to go get certified to become a personal trainer. And then something I didn't tell you, one of my best friends now, who is Josh Taylor, he is the face of indoor cycling. So basically he motivated me to become a spinning instructor, a cycling instructor, should we say that right? And that led me to teach cycling. So I've been teaching cycling for about 22 years now. And, I look back at what I was and what I've become, and, being 43, I feel even better now than I used to, as a teenager. So, it's something to be proud of. And I hope I could do that for other people that are in their, 30s and 40s as well.
That's so cool. It's an amazing story. Your classes, I can see the passion that you have in your classes just by watching what you're doing on Instagram. And of course, when I was able to connect with you when I was in New York, I was able to see it then too. But you have a way of making your classes so badass where it is so tough. You're so connected and engaged with the members. There's that passion you can feel that it's about the members. This isn't the Fabian show, even though you have a class called F-bomb. It is really about kicking their butts so they leave feeling accomplished. How do you know that you're teaching a tough class? How do you know that they're receptive to how hard your classes are, and how could we maybe get some advice from you on maybe turning the dial up on making our classes more challenging? How do we do that?
Well, thank God no one has ended up in the hospital yet. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I go by their energy, basically, the attendance has been great. Thank God, it's just their response is amazing. And I know what level to gauge them at, through their response to certain exercises. And I know what not to do with certain classes. I could tell by the athleticism inside the class. So, to me, it's all about music. That music has to be there, especially if you're going to give someone a powerful training workout. You got to match the music up with that.
Here's a question. And sorry to cut you off here. You've been in the industry, you said, for about 22 years, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So how were you teaching when you first started, maybe within the first few years? And now you've advanced in many ways as a performer. Two-part question. What are your classes like now versus what they were then? And do you consider yourself an advanced performer?
I consider myself a performer. I don't know about advanced, but I know I progressed for sure. I know my level definitely elevated. I know that. I'm just me. I don't go around and look and see who's better than me. Am I better than them? I do what I do. I play my house music. I play my type of music, and we just rock out and have fun. But I definitely excelled. I know that from when I first started.
So really, we never stop excelling. We never stop growing. We never stop learning according to what you're saying. So what's next for you? Where do you want to go next with your fitness career? How do you advance?
I take it day by day. There's really no plan. I have a couple of things in the works, but there's no plan. There's just like taking it day by day and enjoying what I do. So there's no stress. For me, this is all fun. I love it. I love what I do. I love compiling playlists. I love going to people's classes and checking out what's new and fresh. I like to stay on top of the game, and that's it. And, love your style. I went to, when you came into New York, we had that DJ ride that was off the hook, and it was a good time, man. We got to do that again.
I can't wait. God, and I had just gotten started. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to New York. It was the coolest thing. Well, that's so cool. Well, thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, but any other thoughts before I move on to Jamaal?
I just got to say what's up to Chris. Go check out his class because he's awesome. We did a dual ride together, and he's insane. You would never know he just started teaching. And Jamaal's all.
Cool, guys. Okay, bear with me one moment. I'm just going to disconnect my AirPods. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm going to move on to Jamaal Sanderson. So Jamaal, you teach at our Syosset, New York location, right?
Yes, Syosset and Garden City.
Cool. So what classes are you teaching?
Right now, I'm just teaching AMP and Ed Cycle.
Very cool. So I posted on the grid what we're going to be talking about today, and I think it's so interesting because this isn't really a topic that we talk about. In fact, it's kind of like a hush-hush topic. To give some of you some background, and of course I'm going to let Jamaal elaborate, but Jamaal, you quit Lifetime earlier this year, and you went to Cycle Bar, and then you recently came back to Lifetime. Can you talk us through why you left to begin with, and why did you come back?
Just make sure everybody can hear me. Everybody's good?
Yep.
All right, fantastic. All right, so most importantly, I even remember from the first time we were doing auditions for Garden City, Donna Thomas was there. She was one of the people that gave me the green light, so thank you, Donna. When I was working at Lifetime, I had a good amount of classes. I was at both locations in Long Island, both Garden City and Syosset. Very good attendance. doing very well for myself. Classes were packed and everybody was good, but I always just felt like there was a little bit more that I feel like I needed to have. And at the point, it just felt like every time I was trying to go for something, I would just get just enough, and it would just be like, let's just go back to the classes and do what I had to do. And I felt like I was missing something. I felt like I was worth more, and I felt like I was doing more. And the local cycle bar had just opened up, and they reached out to me, and I had spoken with them, and they had offered me things, and I said, this is what I want. They had offered me things that Lifetime at the time wasn't offering. And then it was a weird time because I had just won artistry for the quarter. And everybody's giving me congratulations. Everybody's doing everything, and managers, area directors are coming over to me. And then all of a sudden I'm sitting down with them and I'm saying, I'm leaving. And it kind of caught people off guard. And I explained to them why I didn't want to continue my career with Lifetime. And at the time, they had said, why didn't you ever let us know? And I didn't. I kept it inside. And I just said, I have felt with me applying to certain positions and everything, those were me crying out like, hey, this is what I want. And me being overlooked, I felt like, well, I've taken my chances. Maybe this is being a cycle instructor is the most that I'm going to be for Lifetime. And then I went to Cycle Bar, went there, and it was a good experience. I learned a lot more about myself. I became a good instructor, but the number one thing that I was missing out on, which I thought I was going to be able to, was to be a better father. And a lot of the times I was working so hard to build my brand for Cycle Bar, to get myself out there, because it's different at a boutique. You have to do whatever it takes to get people into your class. It's not like people come to a membership at a gym or a facility like Lifetime and they say, oh, let me go try a cycle class. You literally have to put your name out there. You have to expose yourself, let everybody know who you are, so that way you're able to have people in your class and your income reflects off that. So I was spending a lot of time building my brand, building everything else, that I forgot that I had a beautiful wife and two lovely kids that I also needed to spend time with, and I wasn't doing that at the time.
That's incredible. So when you went to Cycle Bar, when you initially decided to leave Lifetime, your cup wasn't getting filled in terms of I missed a little bit of it only because my stupid Alexa decided to start talking and I got totally distracted. But when you decided to leave Lifetime, what more did you need from Lifetime?
Recognition was not the case. Artistry, it's one of the top awards that Lifetime can give you. And it was very gratifying. I was hearing from people all over the country, all over from Lifetime, saying, hey, I just saw that you won artistry. It was great. I just had felt at the point that with Amp Cycle and Ed Cycle, I was hitting a plateau. I felt like at that point I wasn't becoming better, and it wasn't right for myself, because I'm a competitor, just like Fabian will tell you. Being in New York, you can't settle. You always have to be better, and you always have to look for something that's going to make you stand out even more. And I felt like at the time with Lifetime, I felt like I hit the plateau. I hit the ceiling.
Okay, so when you went to Cycle Bar, you weren't around your family nearly as much as you wanted to be. Is that right?
That's correct.
Why is that? Was it because of the amount of classes that they wanted you to teach?
It wasn't so much the classes that I wanted to teach. I was actually teaching a lot less. It was just working so hard to put my name out there, to let people know, hey, I'm here, come take my classes, and just making sure my playlists were precise, making sure everything was precise. And then at the time, it was just like, at a boutique, it's all about how many people are in your class. If you don't, you're paid on the scale of how many people are in your class. So basically, we went through the summer phase, and then as we got into fall, it was still remaining the same. So from there, I also started working at Orange Theory. I was working at Orange Theory as well. So putting more time rather than just doing cycling and spending time with my family, I'm doing cycle bar, Orange Theory, and then maybe some time with my family. But I would come home and I'm dead tired. Didn't even want to do anything. I just wanted to nap. And then it was instead of me spending time and with my family, it was a babysitter or just my wife. And I felt terrible about it.
Any of you that have your video on, have any of you ever just felt completely burnt out because of how many classes you're teaching and just feeling exhausted when you get home? Same. So you were teaching a lot of classes when you're away from Lifetime. I mean, you're teaching a lot of classes now, but there's a work-life balance positive that I think you're speaking to with Lifetime versus with the boutiques that you were working at. Is that right?
Yeah, it's very different now because number one, we're saving money, no babysitters. But now it's, if I want to cover a class or I want to take a class, I get to bring my kids with me. My kids come with me. My wife is a member at Lifetime. She was even a member even after I left Cycle Bar and Orange Theory because I told her she needs to stay there because it was a great place for our family. It was a great place for our kids. And now it's just, I get to take my classes in between classes. I get to have lunch or I get to have dinner with my kids. I get to bring them right back up to Kids Academy, teach my classes, and then we get to all go home together and have dinner and spend a lot more time. And one of the more key things was during the summertime was my daughter, at one point we're in the car and she said, "Daddy, when are we going to do daddy-daughter dance?" And it kind of hit me because ever since we've been members at Lifetime, we've gone to every daddy-daughter dance since Garden City opened. And this was going to be possibly the first year we don't do daddy-daughter dance.
Okay. So you're back and you'll be able to go to the daddy-daughter dance. I think that's in 2019, right?
Yes, 100%. We're still, we have the streak going.
And I'm sure you already have your outfits picked out.
100%.
Okay, so I have to ask you, when you left Lifetime, when you were at the other boutiques, was there ever a moment where you were like, shit, I made the wrong decision?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've alluded to it already before. Just being in my bed or being in the couch and my kids wanting to play, and I just literally said, "I can't. Daddy's tired." Between Orange Theory and Cycle Bar, I was doing possibly about 20 to 25 classes just to, keep everything stable financially. And it was just tiring me out because I was either at Cycle Bar or at Orange Theory and hardly ever at home. So at one point I just said, this has to be enough. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this to my family and I can't do this to myself, most importantly.
It's amazing. So when you were considering coming back to Lifetime, did you ever think, I mean, I'm just trying to put myself into your shoes. And I have left, but it was only for circumstances that had to do with a different career. Fitness wasn't my full-time job. But was there a moment when you were coming back to Lifetime when were you embarrassed at all? When you were thinking, oh God, are they gonna let me come back?
It wasn't so much the point of embarrassment. It was more of, are they going to accept me again? Is it coming as I'm coming back? Is it just like, hey, this guy left us. He didn't say one word to us. And there were a couple members who were completely honest with me and I appreciated that. But others were very welcoming. Everybody was acting the Lifetime way. They were welcoming. They said, hey, you had to go on your path. You had to go on your journey, but now you're back. And it's true to that saying, you have to learn to love something. You have to let it go. And at this point, I had to let Lifetime go to really appreciate what Lifetime was really about. And ever since I've been back, it feels like I've never really left. It feels like I was just on vacation.
That's so cool. So what are your classes like now that you've been back? And remind us, how long have you been back now?
I've been back for about almost a month now, and people were very, very excited to see me back on the schedule. Classes have been growing, and the great thing about it is as much as I miss Lifetime, I feel like I needed that cycle bar and orange steering experience because I feel like I've become a better instructor. I'm able to I was able to see different aspects, and also just I'm able to connect with members more. I've seen members they've come up to me after class. They say, there's something different about your class, and in a positive way. You know, I was always one, and I'm pretty sure a lot of instructors do this as well. I was very on the stage, close my eyes a lot. I closed my eyes. I was just in my zone, just making sure that I was doing everything right, making sure I was hitting the right cues, making sure I was doing the moves right. And now I see myself opening my eyes and giving a shout out to members and making more connections during class rather than just before and after class.
That's so great. So where do you see your career headed now that you're back at Lifetime? Do you see more opportunity available to you now that you're back?
The most important word that I have come into as I've came back to Lifetime is patience. That's the most important thing. At the time when opportunities may have been open for me and they may have closed, the door was closed, it wasn't my time to walk through that door. So now it's coming where I'm just going to focus more on delivering an awesome experience for every member that comes to Lifetime. And when opportunities start to present themselves, that's the time when they need to come. And that's the time when I have my chance to walk through that door.
That's great. Well, I know we're very thankful to have you back, and congratulations to you on getting those members back. And of course, they're obsessed with you anyway. I mean, thankfully, we have social media, and who doesn't follow Fit Mr. Mom on Instagram? At least if you don't, anyway, you definitely have to. But Jamaal, is there anything else that you want to add before we move on?
My most just important thing is just like Fabian alluded to before. Stay hungry, stay confident, and keep making an impact. And when you feel like you've hit your ceiling, always remember that there's something out there that's going to make you better and that's going to take you to another level. Just go out and get it, and you'll find it, and you'll be a better performer for it.
Cool. You guys, if you have any questions for Jamaal, we'll be taking questions at the end. And Jamaal, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And again, congratulations on being back with Lifetime.
Thank you.
So next we have Donna Thomas. Donna, you're located down in the Chicago region, and Donna has many years of experience, and I am so honored to have you with us today. So Donna, talk to us about your fitness career, your fitness path. Where did you start? Where are you at now?
How much time do you have, my friend? No. I've been in it a while, a hot minute. I started in 91 and taught jazzercise, if anybody's ever heard of that, which was I made a ton of money and I had a great time. And during that time, I had a chance to teach a lot. I was in leadership there, and it was really a way to get people connected to moving. And it was kind of in the early days. So I feel like, a total OG on that front, but it was great. It was a great experience. At some point, I had my third kid and I decided to leave, just take a break from fitness. It was too many kids, too many things going on. And so I sold my business and I was lost. And what happened was I wanted to come back and teach a little bit for the new owners. But unfortunately, they didn't want me to do that. And I didn't understand why. And that's when I understood it. I was a jerk. So I'd been teaching.
Go ahead.
Sorry. It's not often. I'm pretty transparent on social media, but when we talked a little bit about this yesterday, it stayed with me all day. This is a moment that I've kept with me because it's my humbling crossroad. And I'm hearing crossroads from everybody today too, of whether it's to continue on, to change direction. And, I had one too. And I was teaching for me. It was the Donna show. I had a chance to do my thing. I was having a great time. I didn't realize that then the new owners didn't really want to work with me. And that was on me. So what a great lesson. Now, the cool thing is that that's when I found Lifetime. And then I had a chance to play there. So 16 years there. Go ahead. I don't reel me in, man. What do you want to know?
My mind is going all over the place. I mean, first to think of Donna Thomas ever being a jerk at any capacity is literally mind blowing to me. But I think it's so interesting when you talk about, I think there was something that you said in our conversation yesterday where it was all about getting the more members. It was driving the numbers up. I mean, all of that stuff. And they were going up. And I just have to assume that what you're referring to is your ego was going right up there with it. So there was probably a level of when you walked in that club, wherever you were teaching, it was like mic drop before the class even got started in terms of just like feeling powerful. And when the new business owners didn't want you back, that had to have been a moment where you're like, well, God, I'm like, how could they not want me back? So can you talk us through like the ego part of where you were at in fitness? So I would just have to assume that a lot of us that are tuned in today, we've probably all got a level of an ego, and I'm sure we all know of some other performers, friends, anyone who's got that as well, maybe at, again, different levels. How do you know that it's working against you? How do you know that it's negatively, I guess, impacting you and the people around you?
That's really a great question, because I appreciate having operational steps and actions. Otherwise, they're just thoughts. So when you can identify what's happening, for me, when the numbers were high in a class, it was a good day. And that doesn't tell a whole. The numbers can be lower, and yet those people are super impacted. I didn't get that. And so my mood, I don't know if anybody's ever felt this, my mood changed by how many people were in class. More people, the better. The less people, less. That's when I came up with the 30-minute rule. I gave myself 30 minutes after class. You can think about what you need to. You can decompress. You can figure out if something went wrong. How do you make that better? And even if something went great, if I teach at 9:30 in the morning and 8 o'clock at night, I'm still thinking about that class. That's a lot of bandwidth that could have gone somewhere else. Like, to Jamaal's point, to my family, to myself, to my friends. So I was just thinking about when's the next time I'm teaching. But I didn't really know it at the time. I needed some distance from it before I could go, wow, you're being a douche. It took me a bit. But again, I needed to do that, I think, to come this other way. So if you find that you're thinking about your classes for hours after you're teaching, let it go. Give yourself 30 minutes, because otherwise it's not productive. And that the numbers do tell a story, but the real story is that these individual connections, and I'm hearing everybody talk about it, it's about individual connections with people, not everyone as a group. So I forget, was it you, Jamaal, that was saying about opening your eyes? Make your connection with people. I realized I wasn't really doing that either. That's kind of a thing for me. I challenge all you guys to take your next 3 classes and review just briefly, no more than 30 minutes. How often are you saying words like, I need you to, you should? Like, when you start dropping stuff out, which is what I found, when I started asking questions like, can you? Or if it's on the bike, you're like, turn it. And it's not like you're yelling at anybody. It's a declarative sentence. Turn it. And it switched from being about me to undeniably being about them, which is the point, right? And I didn't realize how my language was tying it back to me, because that's not why I'm here. I went from having it be about me to where I really think it is, and I'm hearing it from you guys too. And I know some of you guys on the call today, and you're awesome. You're servant leaders. And that's where it is. If we're servant leaders, then we arrive in a space, mentally, spiritually, physically, where we're ready to be available for our people.
How do you humble yourself in those moments where you have those packed classes, you have those moments that boost that ego, where you're talking about that 30 minutes after class? How do you check yourself and reel it back in humble yourself in those moments? What are some suggestions you have? I mean, how do we do that?
Well, you surround yourself with good people that are like, they don't take your nonsense, right? Like, okay, TMZ's not following you around. You might want to pull that back. I really find grounding myself beforehand. And I'm wondering, when I talk to teachers, a lot of times they'll say they understand that concept. Like, you get yourself mentally ready to serve. But sometimes we don't have a process to do that. Like, don't you agree that when you're teaching, you're at this heightened arousal? That's what it is. It's heightened arousal. And you have to get there in a place that is, that you can kind of naturally get there. Otherwise, people can tell it's super fake and inauthentic. So to have a process beforehand serves me afterwards. So let me elaborate on that a bit. For me, doing anything where I'm going to get a chance to be an influence in a way, like, I'm so grateful for that, I got to spend some time with no shoes on. I got to put my feet on the earth and just feel grounded that way. I don't take any emails or texts 30 minutes before class. If somebody really needs to get me, they can get me. But like, nothing good is happening 15 minutes before. I don't need to know if somebody's on fire, they're going to get me. But to clear that bandwidth off, and then I got to remember my why. I keep it front and center. I'm a journaler. And my why is, if I'm lucky enough to get in front of people and to be with people that, to me, and I'll say it with, and I don't know if this will land or not, but it's nothing short of a ministry, you guys, in a way. Like, you get to be with people to do this. And for me, my life isn't as rich when I'm not serving in that capacity. So I had a chance to see what it's like. This is my calling, and I want to show up in a way that best serves whoever I'm lucky enough to get to be with. And then other parts of my life, other people are doing that for me.
So how do we practice being better servants? How do we become more aware within that moment? When a lot of us go into our classes, we're thinking, I have my playlist ready. I'm completely prepared. Maybe the preparation varies from performer to performer, but bottom line, they're thinking about the show that they're about to put on. Mm-hmm. What are some tips that you could give us on becoming more aware? You and I were talking about being present and aware within the moments before, during, and after your classes. How do you actually become aware and present, especially in those moments of chaos? When we're walking into our classes, people are walking in the room. You're like, oh my God, are the lights working today? Are the projection screens working today? Are people going to show up to my classes? How do you just like stop and become fully aware and present before, during, and after your classes?
Well, it's a work in progress. Let's put it that way, because it's not always easy, and I can't say I'm always nailing it. But there are a couple of things, like when you're walking into the club, which I appreciate. If people want to say hi, you're like, that's awesome. But I think we need to remember that the vitality that comes off of us is what is so magnetizing. Sometimes it's what you look like, but I really think it's the energy that people just want it. And we're struggling as a world. So when they feel that lightning that comes off of you, people are going to gravitate. And sometimes they don't know when to stop. They just want to be a part of it. So it's up to us with some healthy boundaries. For example, I'm coming into the club and I'm getting ready to serve, and people are like, Donna, let's do a walk and talk with me. I'm getting ready for class. I got 5 minutes. I will circle back, but that's how much I've got now. Instead of, you ever had that where somebody's talking to you and they're taking, you're like, oh my God, it's like 15 minutes. 15 minutes I don't have right now. So it's just letting people know, I've got this, I'll get back to you. This is where social media for me is everything. I get a chance to chat and reach back out later, because I don't know. The other piece of that, as I'll get right to that, is you got to know yourself. And that sounds like whatever. You got to know yourself. For me, you guys, the big light bulb was realizing I'm an introvert. Anybody else feel that way? Where like, you're this person, but to go away from that, once I figured that out, My whole life changed. And I wasn't like a dream. That could be a whole nother segment, by the way. Introverts and fitness.
Is it okay to be an introvert?
I don't know how to not be. I think there's so many performers that are in general, and it doesn't mean you don't love people. Doesn't mean you don't have this other side, that this heightened sense, but it does mean that when you recharge, you're going to need some alone time. So I appreciate feel free to use this. There's got to be, when there's this uptime, there's got to be monk mode. Hashtag monk mode.
Yeah, but we're in this business where it's all these performers. We walk in and it's like, we're around all these big personalities. What about the introverts where they're like, I'm not that person. How do I become okay with that without trying to compete with these performers that are like more extroverted than some performers? How do introverts feel okay and secure?
That's a great point. Getting back to what I've heard earlier too about, it seems that there's a theme that we try to create this persona and to be a bit different, to stand out. Would you say that would be a correct conclusion to draw? Like we're all kind of like, we all have our niches. I think what it's really about is just knowing who you are, because nobody else is going to be you. And once you are solid with who you are, then you already are different. You already are your brand. So I appreciate it when there's introverts can certainly ratchet it up. They just need to have time afterwards, be a little bit more thoughtful with their coming back inside mode. But everybody's going to be different, unique, and special just by being them. So and if you ever feel stale, go take somebody's class. Go to another live event where the energy's there. You're like, and then it charges you. And then you're going to take some risks. You guys ever said something in class, you're like, wow, that's going back to Santa's workshop. That was not good. But people appreciate that it's not so scripted, that you're human, that you're connecting, and you're being you, and it's not this thing that is unapproachable or perfect, because nobody is.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And again, we could spend so much time on that alone. But there was some feedback that you gave me about a year and a half ago or so. And feedback can be a conversation that is so awkward, and it can be so uncomfortable for some performers, whether you're giving feedback or taking feedback. That's something that we address on Air Live after every class. For those of you that haven't been a part of On Air Live, we give you tips on how to give feedback. So stay tuned for the On Air Live series. But you gave me some feedback that really helped me. Is you probably thought it was a really, really small, just a small kind of off the cuff comment. Maybe you didn't, but it stayed with me, and it's really, really helped my performance. And something that I didn't do a very good job at was eye contact, looking at members in the eye from the back row, the middle rows to the front row. I was constantly having my gears turning, thinking about what's coming up next. What are we doing next? I was teaching I think a great class, but what I was missing was that connection with members. And that connection is in the moments of where there's not a lot going on. In the moment where there's not a lot going on, you don't have to say anything. I was always like, I was talking too much. And now there's something so beautiful about the moment that when I'm looking at members in the eye, I'm getting the chills even talking about it, this connection that you just can't talk about. It's just like, it's this moment. And going back to finding yourself as a performer, taking those challenges of just being a little bit vulnerable. It was weird for me to look at members straight in the eye. Right when I first started doing it, I was like, oh God, this is weird. Like, this is a little weird. Why do they think I'm like, why are we looking at each other for this long? But the reality is they do think of us performers, members think of us performers as these celebrities, these ministers that they go to every single week, probably multiple times a week. So that one example alone, the eye contact, opened a huge door for me on just looking at them in the eye, breaking down the barriers that I put up on my own of being afraid. I was totally afraid to look at them. And I was afraid of them. Maybe they judged me. Maybe I thought I was too quick to think the worst in that moment. But there's something so great about how just that feedback alone helped me find more of myself as a performer, which in the end makes me feel so much more secure and confident and put together when I walk up on that stage.
Wow. You know, thank you for sharing that. After we talked, I reflected on that, and I actually remember that now. And the reason the value that I can share with everybody else, because again, it's scalable. I remember being really grounded, and I remember saying, you know, I'm a fan. Like, I want more. I want you to look me right in the eye, because you're so likable, and I just, you know, you're sharing yourself. And when you come from a place of, like, it's all good. Like, you know, coaches need coaches. Coaches need coaches. Everybody's got something that if you love somebody and you're grounded, you'll share with them. And then they can do with it what they want. If you chose to think about it, that says a lot about you. So whenever, I always figure whenever you're in that feedback situation, if you're coming from a place where you're really just doing it because, hey, I can see something, you decide whether that fits for you, but you're so amazing, we're going to take it from here to here. If it's in that context, I think it's really valuable.
So today's conversation is all about moving up, how we move up and excel within our careers as a performer. Not necessarily within title. Maybe it's working towards a bigger title, like maybe master trainer or manager of some kind, or maybe it's to become a better performer, so to speak. How does all of this come together in terms of building our story of what's next? How can we take the feedback and the advice that you just gave us from your journey throughout fitness? How do we move on? I mean, how do we take this into our path of being fitness performers?
My opinion of that would be work on yourself as a human. And when those things feel good in your heart, you'll have that confidence like you did when you were looking at people. You just take things to another level because you feel good. Whether you theme your classes or not, there's an artful way to share concepts that are happening. Maybe it's something you're thinking about. But to make it so it's about everybody, the language is inclusive. But because you are working through your stuff, you're honest with yourself, you take 30 minutes after class, how could I have done that better? You know, like there's 3 members there that I've been with for a decade and I don't know their names yet. That's on me. That's on me. So my plan is next time I'm going to get their names because I'm going to have to go, oh my God, you guys, I don't know your names. Help me. And then, so I'm going to chip away at and be honest at the places where I can celebrate when I'm doing well and just hold the mirror up. What could I do a little bit better? And when I feel confident that I'm progressing, it comes out in my relationships, in my teaching. I don't think they're compartmentalized. They're all part of one big spectrum.
I think this is so brilliant. You know, I was thinking before we had this conversation today that you were going to give us tips on what to do next on becoming a better performer. Maybe like more strategy, which you gave us that. But I really love that your number one suggestion is to work on yourself. Because really, I mean, my just thinking through this kind of on the fly is when we really work on ourselves, that confidence, that bright light, that puts that energy that just says, I've got this today. And in a humble way, that's going to be recognized by everyone around you, whether it's your friends, family, loved ones, members, fellow performers, team members, leaders at our clubs. And really, I think that's the key to moving up in anything. Yeah.
I absolutely do. And I think that also grounds you in authenticity. So everybody here has their own personality, their own zhuzh, this own energy that came out. And that's why people come to you. So that just gets magnified. Being you with all your challenges and all the things that you do great, making yourself accessible. I'm hearing that. And doing it consistently, not just on Thursdays, all the time. So that's by taking care of yourself first. Otherwise, you can't show up for anybody else.
So I have an on-the-fly question for you, and we didn't prepare for this at all, but it just came to me, but somehow I think that you're going to be able to answer this one. So can you give us some homework in like a deadline, I'm not going to follow up with any of you to see if you actually do this or not, but can you give us some homework and a deadline of what to do and how long we should give ourselves to do it to really connect with who we are?
Okay. In terms of, start with teaching and then we'll go more personal. I gave you one about take the next 3 classes and listen to your language. If you need to voice record yourself, do it. And that's really can be intense, but it's your voice. I mean, I kindly ask you to get over it. Are you saying, I need to, I want you to? Because then it's like, I, teacher-centered, when what I'm hearing is you guys are handing the responsibility and the joy over to your students, and you can really influence your class by saying statements that are more asking questions. Can you do this? Let's go. So that you're doing it more as a group instead of focusing on you. We talked about the 30-minute rule. You guys, that's a game changer. And these will give you time to work on yourself, not obsessing about your class all day long, whether it's whether it was good or bad, whether or challenging. Either way, you know, either end of the extreme is no bueno. Just give yourself 30 minutes and put it away, and all of a sudden you can think and live your life. Same thing goes for when you're doing your music. No more than an hour. Don't look horrified by me, but think about it. If you're spending inordinate amounts of time thinking about stuff, set a timer. And then whatever you're doing, that'll work. It'll force you to be a little bit more efficient. Here's why. There's no way you can work on yourself when you're just busy doing tasks. You're not sitting quietly. You're not hearing what's happening in here. If you're a journaler, hey, oh, this is awesome. You guys ever seen this book?
I haven't.
The Morning Miracle. It is the shit. Okay, so the guy is Hal Elrod. And what it is if you wind up getting up an extra 30 minutes in the morning and you start getting your day going, huge. Morning Miracle. Easy read. But from a performer perspective, honoring your question, JR, get the teaching stuff into manageable bites, not just I just do this all the time, all day long. It's inefficient. You want to be in it for the long haul. Get it dialed in so that you have time for yourself, and then you can even start thinking about doing anything for yourself, but not if you're busy all the time.
So how do we hold ourselves accountable? This is my last question. You know, you give us this homework, life gets busy, it's the holidays, there's a million things on our mind where it's very hard to be present and aware. How do we hold ourselves accountable and actually follow through on these things and keep it a long-lasting effort?
You know, if you want to do something, you'll do it. And if you don't, you won't. So that's where the rubber meets the road in my heart. If you heard something today that sounds like, okay, that one thing I can do, pick one. Maybe you are the person that's thinking about your class all day long, then you're going to go for the 30-minute rule. Maybe you're the one that's got music all the time. You pride yourself on your music, but you guys are wasting your time. You don't need to do that much. If that speaks to you, do that. Do something. If you're a journaler, that 15 minutes in the morning, and well, I'm going to say it. You guys, if you're not already, like, all roads lead to yoga. Like, all of them. Every single path leads there somewhere. And that's at least a place to go get quiet. I'll just leave that right there. But the amount of time that you can spend just being quiet, because we do things that are so stimulating, you'll get your own stuff in order, and you'll be even more present for everybody in your world, including your students, your family, and your friends.
Cool. I thought all roads led to an AMP cycle class.
And then after that, it goes to yoga. Yeah. Clearly, I had to.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And the book, Morning Miracle, I've been wanting to talk a lot, get more into talking about books on LT Grid. My mind is kind of blowing right now, but I'm going to get started reading that book. And if any of you want to join me, let's talk about it on the grid. I'm not going to lie to you. I never give myself time to read, and I'm just like, screw it. I'm just going to watch Netflix. I'm just going to be completely honest.
I got one more thing then for you. Then make it a toothbrush book. A toothbrush book is you only read as much as the time it would take you to brush your teeth. 3-4 minutes. These chapters are really short. Do a toothbrush book. You'll eventually get there. Nobody
Cool.
said you had to get there at a speed.
I think it's awesome. So, Donna, any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
You guys, I love you. I feel I've been around for a long time, but that only means that I've made a whole bunch of mistakes. And I love performers, and I feel such a kinship to want to share, so that you get to decide when you don't want to do this anymore. Not because you have to. You're like, I got to get out of it because whatever. You get to decide how long you want to influence people. And if you want to do that, you have to take care of yourself better. Even if you're doing a great job, better, so that you're available for everybody else, because the world needs you. There's not enough of you.
You got that right. So I did say earlier that we were going to be taking questions. The reality is we are way over time. And to be completely honest, I actually knew this was going to happen because Donna was on the conversation today. But let's do it this way. If you have any urgent questions right now, urgent being if there's something that needs to be addressed right this second, please raise your hand in the chat, or just comment in the chat and I'll call on you one-on-one. Otherwise, we're all connected on the grid. That's how you know about this today. Otherwise, maybe you saw it on my Instagram post. Actually, no, the link is only on the grid. So please message those co-hosts that you want to connect with today. I tagged them in all of the posts, so all you have to do is tap their name, and then it will bring you to their page, and you can message them directly. So, Donna Thomas, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Jamaal Sanderson from Syosset, New York, thank you so much for being with us today. Fabian F-Bomb from New York, thank you very much. And Chris Kim had to take off. He had something else going on today. But of course, huge thanks to Chris. And I'm so proud of his journey, member turning performer as well. So today's conversation was all about turning the dial up on who we are and what we're doing as performers, and how to level up and move up within our fitness career. So I'm really hoping that this was helpful for you. And if you have any direct questions for me, questions, comments, feedback, I'll be posting a survey as well on getting your thoughts and feedback regarding today's conversation. I'll be posting that on the grid today. So please take a second and fill out the survey. But above all, thank you all so much for your time and for being present and aware with what's going on during our conversation today. So I'm going to end the conversation. Thank you for joining in on AMP Talk Live. I know some of you aren't AMP Cycle certified performers, but today's conversation was open to absolutely everyone. And we'll be doing this again. Thank you so much for tuning in today, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Guys, thank you very much. See ya.